So we got 10 minutes before class starts officially, and I like to talk about the news in that time. This one was pretty amazing. As you probably know, a lot of companies do phishing tests these days, where they will send you fake phishing emails, and then if you click on the link, they'll know that you fouled up, and they'll report you for security training or something. But what these guys did was the University of California, Santa Cruz sent out an email warning people there was an Ebola case on campus. Now, for real phishing, this would be fine. The whole point of phishing is to get you excited and upset, so you'll click on the link and download things and stop worrying about security. But for a fake test, of course, this is pretty crazy. It reminds me, when I went to the University of Illinois, I think it was shortly after 9/11, perhaps. And it was in the Reagan years, so I guess it was before that. Must have been like 88 or so. But anyway, we were very afraid that a war was going to start. So on an April Fool's edition, the campus newspaper always had fake headlines. And the campus headline this on an April Fool's said, "Reagan declares war, initiates draft, college-age students being drafted now." And students freaked out and panicked and called their family and in tears and said, "I'm going to be drafted, I'm going to go off to war," and it was all fake. So it's a similar kind of mistake. Somebody had a joke which is like a practical joke that fools people, that gets people too upset. So it's a pretty remarkable lack of judgment. But this tends to happen in academic settings. Everybody makes mistakes, but academics make this particular kind of mistake a lot. That's why they call it an ivory tower. They tend to be in an insulated, sort of playful, childish place where they're unaware of the concerns of real people. And so they will just do something outrageous that gets people upset out of a complete failure to understand what it's going to do. And the same thing happened to Google. Google is essentially a college. It's essentially a branch of Stanford. And Google invented a social network about 10 years ago, and they just took everybody who was using Gmail and slammed them into a social network and said, anybody you sent several emails to must be your friend, so we'll just put them on a list and they can have a timeline and see everything you're doing. And that was a huge problem. So, this kind of thing keeps happening. Good evening. I see some people showing up. So I just learned about this today. Jake Williams, who is a famous security researcher, is giving a talk today about this product and pointed it out to me. And this is extremely interesting. I've been talking for the last year or more about supply chain security with Paul's Security Weekly gang and such. This is a huge problem. If you have any kind of software, pretty much any kind, but especially if you use like Node.js or Python, there are libraries you load online. And those libraries are called more libraries. So I remember there was a study showing the average JavaScript app uses like 1,000 libraries, and you don't know it. You load a few libraries, but each of those libraries loads more, and each of those loads more, until you're using tons of code that you didn't write, and that is probably a lot of it out of date or vulnerable. And so even if you write something and everything is up to date, within a few months, some of those libraries have newer versions, and you can't keep up with all the necessary patching. So this product does something that sounds amazing. It's going to actually automatically update the versions of all your dependencies. Now, I don't know exactly how this works, but I know how I would do it. I would require that you have automated unit tests. There must be some way to tell whether you're breaking it. This is why people don't like doing it, because when you change from one version to another of a library, they will change things, and your application will frequently break. So you'd have to have an automated way of testing it. However, professional software should have automated regression tests, they call it. A regression test is a series of tests to see if the software still works as intended. So you should have an example of each important use case there. I see people asking about adding. I'll add everybody. Everybody wants to get in, we'll get in. I'll take care of that after the first chapter lecture. Anyway, so this is an awesome sounding product. I would like to see it work. I would like to have people talk about it and find out how well this actually works for real software, of the complexity of modern software. It's a great need. Microsoft made this thing called Windows Recall, which takes screenshots every few seconds of your screen and saves them, and records everything you do, and saves it in a big database so your local AI supposedly can look at that and be a helpful assistant. Everybody freaked out and showed that this is dangerous and unsafe, and Microsoft abandoned it. They were going to roll it out to everybody, but they held it back for several months. Now they're rolling it out cautiously to their preview testers, just for the people who choose to be like beta testers. They want to do it, but after the huge security blowback, they're more reluctant to do it. Of course, Apple's going to do the same thing on the iPhone. That should be coming out soon. They call it Apple Intelligence, which will look through all your local stuff and know everything about you, so it should be able to act as a helpful personal assistant. This is probably one of the most apparently useful cases of artificial intelligence, but it's also very invasive, so you need a company you can trust to keep your stuff private. And a lot of people trust Apple, and very few people trust Microsoft. They've foolishly lost data too many times. And in the spirit of AI, the other thing is, of course, AGI. What we have now is AI, or machine learning. AI can do things like take a question and write a page or two of text that sounds like it's a response to the question, so it can craft some language and pass the Turing test. You can talk to an AI, and it's like talking to a human. But it's not really as smart as a human, not remotely. It doesn't have its own desires. It doesn't understand there's a real world. It doesn't understand what it's saying. Often it's talking complete nonsense without knowing it. It's very far from, this is the goal of the AI companies in Silicon Valley, is artificial general intelligence. And they all say they're going to have this very soon, which is, a science fiction fully living robot that can think as well as a human does. I'm real glad to see Gartner coming up here. Gartner is a place that advises you for investment and planning for business decisions, and they're good and hard-headed. They want to know what is working, what is not working, and they predict out of years. And they say what I very much agree with, which is AGI is garbage. It's nonsense. It's never going to happen. Not at all. Not in the next 10 years. Probably never. And probably not even worth doing if you could do it. It's probably never going to be valuable, and people should just sort of knock it off and not worry about it. But they managed to get everybody excited because of science fiction movies that we have to worry about this as a threat and do something about it. And the companies are all promising they're going to do it within the next couple of years to make people invest in them and make their stock price go up. But it's all garbage. AI is going to be a little bit of addition to your word processor that helps you fill in the word and it helps you write code. It's going to be, an upgraded version of autocomplete is what it's going to be, which is nice. Somewhat valuable, like a spelling check or something, but it's not going to be a living being with a will of its own, making human-like decisions and stuff. None of that is going to happen anytime soon. Anyway, that's enough of the news.